Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I met one in the wild, the infamous Karen, and I laughed hard at this lady, angering her more. Today I was shopping for my family at the Midwest's best grocery chain, M. I dislike shopping on Sundays as it is a madhouse, and I usually order my groceries if I leave it until Sunday, but I needed a break from my family after the last few days. We buried my mother-in-law Friday after an aneurysm that shocked us all. I needed the break even though I am on chemo and took it yesterday. I do Saturday so I don't miss work, and so my students don't see their teacher looking ill. Back to the story. I dislike shopping on Sundays, but here I was, ready to tackle the crowds with my stare and one headphone in listening to a book. The other out so people could see I was listening to something and not approach me, but also know that I could hear them if I was in the way. The Big Red M has products in the front of the store, and their employees wear blue-collared shirts with khakis or black pants, or a blue apron with khakis or black pants, and always closed-toed shoes and a visor or ball cap. Today I'm wearing a navy shirt with red, purple, and light blue flowers, jeans rolled up to just above my ankles, platform sandals, and my pink sunglasses on top of my head. I look nothing like their employees, and since I'm pushing a blue shopping cart and looking at produce, minding my own business when Karen first shows up, Karen clears her throat. I move to the side thinking she also wants to look at the blackberries on sale 5 for $5. My book is interesting so I don't pay her much mind. Karen clears her throat again and asks me to excuse her. I tell her I'm almost done, my Midwestern manners kick in, and I hurry up. Karen tells me with annoyance that she said, "Excuse me." I look confused and say sorry since I had only taken a quick moment to get my 5 pints. Karen asks if I'm done yet, even though I'm walking away with my cart. I tell her all yours and mention they all look good, with a good price. Karen says she wants the ones I got since it looks like I got the best ones. I tell her I think they all look good and turn to leave for the bananas. Karen says loudly that was rude. I keep shopping, laughing at how I met a Karen but made it out okay. Next is the bakery department. I'm picking up sweets for my boys, ages 4 and 6, and my husband for breakfast, since my husband is sad and will be taking the boys to school, leaving me to grade before my students get to school. Karen shows up again just as I picked up a discounted package of donuts. Karen tells me she was going to get those, even though I had them in my car before she came to the area. I tell her that stinks and think here we go again. Karen says it's not fair, and I'm taking all the good stuff for myself. I tell her to get ahead of me then. Karen says no and that I need to share with other customers. I mention the store has a first-come, first-served policy. Karen says customers should not have to wait for me to get their stuff. I tell her I don't have to cater to her and walk away with my donuts. Karen yells she wanted those. I ignore her and keep walking away, making Karen unhappy. Karen tells me to give her those cookies. I correct her they're donuts and say no. Karen yells I can't just take what I want and to give them to her. I tell her I got them first and it looks like I can and did. I went up and down the frozen aisle quickly as all I was getting was popsicles for my boys. I'm in the fish department, which also has bacon for some reason, when Karen finds me again. She tells some innocent older lady that she hates when entitled brat employees take things and hide them for themselves. The lady smiles at her nervously as she continues, saying they think they are special and they ignore the paying customers. I laugh at her nonsense and tell the lady and Karen who are blocking my path that I always assume they are not working, on break or something. I add that I've not worked retail in many years, but everyone should at some point, as it helps, understand how difficult it can be. The innocent lady says I'm right. This made Karen mad, but she's yet to go off, so I keep shopping. I'm looking at wine, trying to decide if I want another bottle or drink what I have at home when Karen approaches. Karen asks if I'm going to get wine too. I tell her no, I'll drink what I have at home, but this is good if she wants a decent bottle. Karen says she should have known I'm an alcoholic. I laugh and say what? Karen says I'm an employee who who uses a discount to get cheap wine and that I am sad. I tell her she is the sad one and I don't work here, so leave me alone. I'm done with her behavior. Karen pulls my headphone out of my ear. It's a cheap pair, but still. Karen tells me how rude I am and to take them out. I tell her not to touch me again. Karen says she's had enough of me and my alcoholism. I tell her I've had enough of her behavior, and I drink about once every few days, a glass at most, to unwind from my not here position. Karen tells me not to lie to her, and that she knows I work here. I tell her no, but I shop here regularly, so maybe she's seen me here, but I've never worked for M. Karen insists I do, and I'm even wearing their colors. I question if, because I'm wearing a different blue, with red flowers, she thinks I work here. Karen says I work here with the F word. I laugh at my Karen in the wild catch and say, okay lady. Karen tells me to wait there. She's getting my manager, and I'll be sorry. She reaches into my cart and takes my donuts. I laugh and take them back. Karen turns red and calls for management and a manager. I walk away, and two other customers come up to me. The first customer asks, what was that lady's problem with me? I tell them I don't know, I guess she thinks I work here, and employees must bow down to her. The second customer says I handled her well, and they would have been frantic. The first customer says they know me from somewhere and asks if I'm their kid's teacher. I tell them I am a teacher and ask who their kid is. The first customer tells me their kid's name. I laugh and ask how their project is going. We chat and then go back to shopping because we hear Karen still yelling about a manager, and none of us wanted to deal with her. I head to the other, non-grocery side of the store, get what I need, and head to checkout feeling grateful I got what I needed without more problems. I'm standing in line, cart full, when Karen shows up. Karen tells me to let her in front of me, saying she reported me to my manager, who said she'll talk to me later, and that employees should go after customers. She stands there with hands on hips. I tell her I don't know who she talked to, but again, I don't work here. I have waited for two other customers already, and while her cart has less than mine, I won't offer her anything since she has been so nasty. Karen says that's it. The nasty woman hit me with her cart. She says she's getting my manager, and I'll be sorry. She took off yelling again as I began to unload my cart. I'm pale because today is the day after my chemotherapy treatment, and I am not happy with this lady. Normally, I would let someone with a few small items go ahead of me, but not today as I just want to get home and get to bed. I'm lucky my chemotherapy doesn't make me bedridden like it does many people, but I don't feel great. The employee notices how pale I am and asks if I need help and says they'd called the manager after the incident with the lady. Normally, I would say no thank you, but I take his offer and sit in the blue benches in front of his lane while he and another employee unload and reload my cart. They even put in my perks code for me. This store really is the best. The manager comes up as I'm getting up to pay, Karen following him. The manager asks if this is the lady she's talking about. Karen tells him yes, I'm still here to take care of me. I was so rude and took all the good things, and she bets I steal too. The manager looks confused and tells her, I'm not an employee. I shop here often, so maybe she's seen me. Karen asks if he's telling her I don't work here and says she doesn't understand why he's covering for me, claiming I stole from her cart. The first customer who was waiting around for Karen is in line and says loudly that she stole from my cart. I just took it back. Karen says employees should not get the discounted things. The manager tells her employees are allowed to buy whatever they want. And again, I don't work here. Karen calls me a thief. I asked them to let me be, I'm feeling ill, but if they need to look at a video, I'll wait, but can they please put up my frozen popsicles? The employee who saw her hit me tells the manager he should look at the video in his lane too. Karen says she did nothing wrong. The manager says no one said she did and raises an eyebrow. Some other employee came out, probably store security. He tells the manager that the lady in pink was harassing the lady in blue and even hit her. He tells me they can show video if I want to press charges. I tell them I just want to get home. I think I'm going to be sick. Karen says call the cops. They'll see I'm a thief. I tell her I'm done with her and will wait for police to press charges as she harassed me, tried to damage my headphones, and hit me. I add that I've never stolen anything in my life. except a piece of candy when I was 5, and I felt so guilty I went back and told on myself and paid for it. The manager tries to calm us down. Karen calls me a liar and says I stole her donuts. I tell her very sweetly that no, I merely took back my donuts that she took out of my cart. The employee suggests looking at the tapes. I agree but ask to sit as I'm not feeling well. Karen calls me a faker. They call the police and the officer watched the tapes as Karen sat there grinning, expecting to be proven right. The police officer asks for our statements. Karen goes first. I'm looking sick and the officer asks if I'm okay. I tell him I'm on chemotherapy and don't feel good. This makes Karen angry and she starts yelling at me as it's my turn to speak. The officer tells her to shut up. She doesn't, so he handcuffs her and says she'll be charged with disturbing the peace no matter if I want to press charges against her for harassment and assault. She went more pale than me, which says a lot. The manager gave me a gift card for my troubles and joked if I ever wanted a job I could have one. I pressed charges which I would have dropped, but since she made me throw up in public, I wanted her to be embarrassed too. I plan on using my gift card for classroom items like tissues and hand sanitizer and food for my homeless students. I told the manager I didn't need the gift card, but she insisted, and when I told her what I'm using it for, the $20 became $100. My students are going to have food for the weekends for several weeks. Thank you, Karen and M. The Thrifty Acres. I thought I had nothing to share until I remembered a story from my military days. This happened back in 1997 when I was at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson, Arizona. I was a young airman first class working the graveyard shift from midnight to 7 a.m. My job was being an aerospace ground equipment mechanic, fixing equipment used to support aircraft. I was assigned to a combat aerospace ground equipment team. We kept all flight line equipment ready to go. The job was fine except for one thing, my boss. My boss was a master sergeant, known for being a jerk without reason. He smoked constantly and drank coffee non-stop. Back then, I had never been a coffee drinker. I wouldn't have my first cup until around 2004 at Cannon Air Force Base. After that, I got hooked, but back then I knew nothing about coffee except it was brown and hot. One morning, I was finishing my shift when the master sergeant called me to his office. I stood at attention, tired and ready to go home. The master sergeant asked why there was no coffee when he came in. I told him I didn't drink coffee, so I never thought to make any. His face turned red. He told me he didn't care if I drank it or not. He wanted the full pot waiting for him tomorrow, and every day after. I told him I'd never made coffee before. He waved his hand and told me it was just filter, grounds, and water. He dismissed me from his office. In the Air Force, sergeants aren't supposed to use airmen as personal servants, but I wasn't going to argue. I'd learned how to make coffee. That night, I asked the shift sergeant how to make coffee. He looked surprised and told me it was simple. Filter, grounds, water. I explained I'd never made it before since I didn't drink it. He asked why I needed to know. After hearing about the master sergeant, he told me making coffee wasn't part of my duties. I said it was fine, I just needed to know how. He told me to put a filter in, add coffee grounds, fill the water reservoir, and hit the button. When I asked about how much grounds, he suggested a couple tablespoons, depending on strength. That's when I got my idea. The next morning, 30 minutes before shift change, I got everything ready. I put the filter in the basket and wondered about the grounds. The master sergeant wanted a full pot, and the pot would be full of water. So shouldn't the filter be full of coffee grounds? That made sense to my tired brain. I filled the filter to the brim with grounds. I packed it down and added more until completely full. I poured 12 cups of water in and hit brew. The coffee maker made strange noises but seemed to work. Dark, thick liquid dripped into the pot. It looked more like tar than coffee. I waited where I could see the office without being noticed. The master sergeant came in on time and saw the full pot. He got that smug grin he had when he thought he'd intimidated someone. He filled his mug and took a big swig. His eyes bulged, and he spewed coffee everywhere, the table, floor, and papers. I ducked around the corner laughing with tears running down my face. When I looked back, he was cleaning the mess and checking the filter. After I stopped laughing, I walked in like nothing happened. The master sergeant called me over. He pointed at the coffee maker and asked what I had made. I said it was coffee, a full pot as ordered. He said it wasn't coffee, but something he couldn't identify. He held out the packed filter and asked how much coffee I put in. I explained I filled it because he wanted a full pot. His face showed anger, disbelief, then acceptance when he realized I wasn't being defiant, just clueless. He asked if I'd really never made coffee before. I reminded him I'd said that yesterday. He took a breath and told me I was never allowed to make coffee again, for life. I said I understood. He never asked me to make coffee again. It became a joke in the shop about keeping me away from the coffee maker. Years later, after I started drinking coffee, I became something of a coffee snob. I now own a fancy machine that grinds beans. Sometimes I think about that tar-like brew I made and cringe. It must have tasted awful, but he shouldn't have ordered me to make his coffee. It wasn't my job and he knew it. My compliance was the perfect response to his attitude. Life in the military taught me about dealing with different people. Most superiors were good leaders who earned respect, but there's always someone who thinks rank gives them the right to treat others like servants. After the coffee incident, the master sergeant eased up around me. Maybe he realized I wouldn't be intimidated, or he feared what else I might do. We reached an unspoken truce. My time at Davis-Monthan continued with ups and downs. The graveyard shift was tough, but my team was good. We worked hard and found ways to make the job bearable. The shift sergeant became something of a mentor. After the coffee incident, he pulled me aside. He told me what I did was either the dumbest or smartest thing he'd seen from an airman. I said I wasn't sure which. He noticed the master sergeant had been less of a tyrant lately. He advised me not to make a habit of such things. I promised I wouldn't, but pointed out I was off coffee duty forever. We both laughed. He gave me advice about military social hierarchy. It was a good lesson. Standing up for yourself can earn respect. The coffee incident became legendary in our unit. Other airmen asked for advice on dealing with unreasonable demands. I always warned my approach might not work for everyone. The master sergeant still drank coffee but found someone else to make it. Sometimes I caught him looking at me with mixed annoyance and respect. He never apologized but stopped giving me pointless tasks. 6 months after the incident, I was finishing my shift when he approached me. He mentioned he heard I fixed a problematic generator. I told him I found a faulty connection causing the outages. He nodded and said that was the initiative he liked to see. It wasn't an apology, but from him, it was high praise. I thanked him. As I left, he was drinking coffee and actually smiled at me. A real smile, not his usual smug grin. Maybe my coffee disaster taught him about respect and authority. Our working relationship improved after that. When I became a staff sergeant with airmen under my command, I remembered that incident. I never asked subordinates to do anything I wouldn't do myself. I treated everyone with respect regardless of rank. I became the leader I wished I'd had as a young airman. Once I started drinking coffee in 2004, I got hooked. Now I need my morning cup to function. If you deal with unreasonable demands, remember my story. Malicious compliance can be perfect, just like my coffee was for the master sergeant. Bitter, strong, and unforgettable. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.